What's up, guys? This is Corey with the Dirt City Gym, back from the video for y'all. So today we're taking a look, continuing to take a look at the current format. We'll still pepper in some of the anniversary box stuff here in the next couple videos, but with the store preliminaries, the ARG summer events, and everything like that coming up, I still want to keep going with some of these current decks. The deck in particular we're looking at today is Veku Ramp, or Gogeta Ramp, whichever you prefer. Honestly, it's one of my favorite decks in the format. I think it has a really good place. Honestly, it reminds me of decks that I used to play a lot, going back into Set 2, Set 3, with the Mono Blue Super Saiyan 3 and Soul Striker, being able to play blue stuff and get up into bigger threats and things like that. It's got a lot of mid-range and long game and those kind of aspects, so I really enjoy it from that perspective. But let's go ahead and get over into the list. Alright, so going into the leader, so we've got Gogeta. So on his front side, he's got the Activate Main once per turn. You can look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose one red Goku BR, one red Vegeta BR, or one blue Veku BR, and add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So it's not quite as good as your normal draw one leaders, but for what this deck is trying to do, it is actually pretty good, because we're needing to find these puzzle pieces in order to really get our combos going. He's an untapped 2 leader. Then on his backside, whenever he swings, he draws. He's got that Activate Main, discard an energy card. He draws 2 cards, so it's really good. He's like a +3 leader on his backside on your turn. He's got the Activate Main, not limited to once per turn, but for 2 energy, you can choose one of your opponent's battle cards and put it at the bottom of their deck. Unfortunately, it doesn't interact with barrier cards, but this is still really great board control, board removal, whatever you prefer. And it's just a really good way to just kind of keep things under control. Moving on to the deck itself, we've got 4 of each of the red prepping for fusion Goku and Vegetas. Personally, I feel like 8 is the bare minimum that you need to run in order to find them pretty regularly off our Gogeta leader's ability. I would never run less than 8, but running 8, I'm pretty consistently finding these Gokus and Vegetas by turn 3 when I really need to hit them. Not only am I running this deck, but I've got several people that are testing this deck for me, so this deck's been played an absolute ton, and pretty consistently everybody's able to hit all the pieces that we need by turn 3, so I like that pretty well. You could potentially probably run more. I don't think I'd run more than 10. You're getting probably too clunky drawing into them more than you probably need to more often with a more blue-centric build. If you're running more of a mono-red type build, then you could absolutely include more and be fine, since you just want to charge those anyway, versus with this type of deck, we're not wanting to really charge red. As far as them as battle cards go, we're never really going to play them. They're 1-drop 1 red. They're 10Ks. Whenever they come into play, they can search for each other or the Veku. And then at the end of the turn, they bounce back to hand. Not too bad there. If you need to get aggressive early, you could probably do that, charge a red, and just start swinging with these and just searching off the top of the deck and things like that. But like I said, generally speaking, we're never wanting to play these as energy until kind of like later in the game. Moving on after that, we've got 4 of each of the Goku and Vegeta Saiyan Duo. So how these work is the Goku, he's a 2-drop 1K. Whenever he comes into play, you can discard a card, then you can search either your drop area or your deck for a Vegeta and put it into play on rest mode. And then the Vegeta says is that whenever he comes into play, untap one of your blue energy, and then when both of them are in play, they both give each other plus 9k, so they're both 10ks, and the Vegeta has the permanent, while he's in play, you can't play non-Vegito battle cards. So a little bit of a restriction there, but really for what the deck's trying to do, these are never going to be on board past a turn. Whenever you play these, you're really playing these to get up into the Gogeta, or the Vegito, excuse me, rather quickly. Moving on into that Vegito, so we've got powers combined Vegito, so he's a 3-drop 20k. He Union Potara for 1, so he goes on top of this Vegeta and Goku in play. Whenever you play him, you draw a card, and if you play him with Fusion, he draws 2 cards, so he's a really good draw engine by himself. He's a 20k body, which is really nice for 1, effectively 2 for really counting, playing the Goku for 2, and tapping 1, then playing 1 for the Vegito. And then he's got the Activate Main once per turn for 2 energy. You can put him in your energy and then play a Vegito card from your energy with an energy cost equal to or less than your current energy, other than himself. So that's how we get into our Vegeta at full throttle, which we'll cover here in just a second. Just a really good efficient strategy overall for blue type decks. Moving on to that Vegeta full throttle, we've got 3. So he's a 4-drop 25k double strike dual attack, so really strong there. He's got the permanent, he can only be played from your energy area, so you can't just ever hard cast him, which is a little unfortunate, but with what how strong he is and how we're able to get him out, it works pretty well for the deck. And then he's got the auto whenever he comes into play. Choose one of your opponent's battle card with barrier and return it to their hand. Unfortunately, he doesn't interact with non-barrier cards, but we have our leader's flip ability in order to take care of that kind of stuff. What he's really there for is to deal with threats, more specifically like Path to Greatness Goku, or anything like that we just want to get off the board that has barrier and kind of set up our opponent back a turn. And then, like I said, he has a 25k double strike dual attack, so he's swinging twice. He's really hard to deal with, especially if he sticks around on the board longer than he has to. So he's a big threat that's really efficient to get out. Moving on into that, we've got Veku, the defective fighter. So he is we have 4 of him. He's a 5-drop 10k barrier blocker. Union Patara for 3 with a red Goku and Vegeta BR. So that's our 4 targets that we already have. And then he's got the auto whenever he is KO'd. You may choose a red Goku and Vegeta BR from your drop area, then add them to your hand. If you do, take the top 2 cards of your deck and then add them to your energy. So he's a great ramp. He's probably one of the better rep cards in the game. He's just restricted to a blue Gogeta leader. This is really what the deck revolves around, being able to ramp up that energy quickly, ideally on turn 3, going into our turn 4, which leaves us at 6 energy. He's just incredibly strong. A lot of strategies people try to play against him is just not attacking once he comes into play, which is really good for us. I'll show you a card a little bit later that we use to great advantage because of that. But if they are swinging, then we're charging. We are not afraid to tap out on our turn playing him because they swing, we block, he dies, we ramp, and then we have energy to defend ourselves for whatever we need. So like I said, just an overall really good card. Generally, you're playing these turn 3, turn 4, turn 5. After that, you're never really playing these. You don't want to ramp any more than that. That they're either charged or they're just combo pieces. Moving on, we've got Gogeta Hero Revive. So he's a 7-drop 30k. He has Union Fusion with a Goku and Vegeta, so our 2-drop Saiyan duos are targets for that because they are non-BR, and he requires non-BR Gokus and Vegetas. So he's got barrier, triple strike, and then he's got the auto for Sparking 10. Whenever he comes into play, you cut a life, and then your opponent takes their hand, shovels it into their deck, and then draws 3 cards. So all in all, he's just a fantastic bomb in general. We are able to fusion him out for 5, which works just fine. But typically speaking, we're not really hard-pressed, just hard-casting for 7. We're able to get up to those high energy totals relatively quickly. And just like I said, just he comes out and kind of finishes games by himself. Just hand removal, and then he's just a big body that is really hard to deal with, especially with only 3 cards in hand. So moving on, we've got 2 Fu Shrouded Mystery, so he's a 10-drop, overwhelm for 6. If you have 10 cards in the drop, you can overwhelm him, and he's a 30k double striker, and then he's got the auto. Whenever you play him with overwhelm, until the beginning of your next turn, your opponent cannot activate skills on cards other than their leader card. So effectively what this means is they cannot use negates. Their super combos no longer draw cards, and if they're older super combos that are 0Ks, that gain the plus 10k, then they no longer gain that 10k. They can activate blocker, all that kind of stuff. So pretty much when he comes in, he's incredibly hard to deal with. A really nice strategy with him is to get the Vegito out like turn 4, turn 5, and then go into Fu Shrouded the next turn, and now you have a double strike dual attacker and then a double striker here that they can't negate. So it becomes really hard to deal with. Moving on into our super combo, we're just running 4 of the Great Saiyaman Town Hero. He's our Sparking super combo. This deck is trying to be pretty defensive, so generally speaking, we're not worried about getting down to low life. So that's why I prefer the Sparking super combo, but you're more than welcome to switch that out for like the North Kai, which is a life super combo base. Alright, next up, going in our extra cards, we've got 4 Dimension Magic, one of the better negates in the game. It just lets us untap. It's Sparking 5, we can take a life and untap 2 energy for free. Really good stuff there. 4 Sensu Bean, pretty self-explanatory, everyone knows what Sensu Bean is by now. It's really great defensively, it untaps things, all that really good stuff. It extends our plays on offense if we really need it. We do have to be wary of things like Whis and Borgos, but generally speaking, I'm using these more defensively anyway, so it's really good that way. Next up, we've got 3 Whis' Coercion. Oldie but goodie, negate back from set 1, negate the attack, untapping energy, just really strong. Like I said, we're trying to be overly defensive for this deck, so the more negates we have, the better. And then finally, our kind of tech card or spice card, whatever you want to call it, but it's 3 Results of Training. So for those of you unaware, this is a card back from set 1. What this card says is for 5 energy, until the end of the turn, you may activate your Awaken skill regardless of your life total. So if you play this at 8 life, you can flip at 8 life, and then untap 4 energy. So how it works is you play this, you untap 4 energy, and for the duration of the turn, like I said, you can flip. So if you tap 5 out, play it, untap 4, then you can use more energy to play something else, then flip your leader, then untap 2 more energy. So really strong there. And like I said, we're trying to be overly defensive. And we're trying to take advantage of the fact that a lot of people aren't going to be swinging into us when we have the Veku in play. And that lets us get to 5 energy naturally. And then whenever we do that, we play this. And then we just go and we flip at 7 or 8 life. Typically when I'm flipping with Gogeta in the results, I'm flipping at 6 life, which is still really strong. It's 2 more than normally. And then it gives us access to a really great backside leader with the draw power and the board control. And it just creates great hand advantage for us that way. Moving on to the sideboard, we've got 3 Planet M2, so this is really more specifically for the Vanillique matchup. If we can drop this against a Vanillique early and just start keeping control of their Son Goku, the adventure begins, we can really kind of swing that matchup more in our favor, not letting them get out the big vanillas efficiently. They have to hardcast them, or they have to continually play the 1 drop, then pay 2 to bring out, which is more where we want to be, where they're not continually just getting that value. Next up, we've got 2 Mafuba, just great negate for bigger threats that we just really don't want to deal with. We can sideboard this in. Alright, next up we have 1 additional Results of Training. This is more for wish-based leaders or leaders that just aren't going to swing at you. They're kind of building up their own strategy. We can side this in and try to get there more quickly. Next up we've got 3 Cronoa. So it's just pretty standard sideboard stuff here against Sugesh types decks. Next up we've got 3 Mercenary Tau. Again, standard sideboard stuff for hand destruction, specifically Lord Slug. That's the more popular one right now. And then finally, we've got our 3 Tianshan Returning Fire. This is just great versus any type of untapped strategy, specifically Janemba, which this deck can handle. We do have to kind of roll with our punches and roll with RNG a little bit, but Tian really helps us that way. But overall, like I said, guys, I think this deck is incredibly strong. I think it's pretty well positioned in the format currently. Obviously, it had issues in a Super Shenron type format, but in the kind of format we're in right now, which is a little bit more wide open, I think the deck has really the ability to flourish. But other than that, guys, that is it. Let us know what you think down below.